Today on SDL, Russ and I are going to talk about our favorite terms from the security industry. Actually, they're my favorite terms that were on my desk the other day when I wrote the show notes, because I was like, there's so many acronyms, and it's like, so you ever wonder what a SIEM is, a SOC? There's all these things that you hear people talk about all the time, and there's a whole dialect of English that we now use just in cyber even. I mean, even the IT people don't know what all these terms are. So today, we're going to analyze what was on Doug's desk on last week when I wrote the show notes.
This is a Security Weekly production.
Welcome to Secure Digital Life. If your users are going to keep putting risky stuff on your machine, you're screwed. So Top can help us understand the complexity of blockchain.
I was reading through the show notes, man. Oof.
In binary, it would be 001. Who cares? But it's probably not significant anyway. Be like you're looking out through the HAL dot, like, hey, Dave.
It's like SIEM, but with,
It would be like SIM.
Instead of AI, it's only.
Accredited by Microsoft, Cisco, NetApp, IDLE, Oracle, and EC Council, QuickStart delivers high-impact, low-cost IT training through its cognitive learning platform in multiple domains. With QuickStart, you get an ever-growing catalog of courses, self-paced courses offered through a monthly subscription, virtual classrooms offered through an annual subscription, peer-to-peer learning, mentoring, official courses, certified instructors, hands-on labs, and more. For more information, visit www.quickstart.com. Use coupon code PAUL20 to get 20% off on all cybersecurity courses. Quick Start, creating world-class technologists. Registration is now open for the first Security Weekly webcast of 2019, the first one. You can register for our Rise Above Complex Workflows, Practical Ways to Accelerate Incident Response webcast with Extra Hop now by going to https securityweekly.com/webcast. So you can register and check that out. It's probably worth your time. RSA Conference 2019 is the place to be, March 4th through the 8th, although we've got some kind of weird symbol there.
Tongue.
March 4, tongue 8. In San Francisco is going to come alive with cybersecurity's brightest minds as they gather together to discuss the industry's newest developments. Go to rsaconference.com. Security Weekly US 19, that's 19er, to register now using the discount code, here we go, 5 Uniform Niner Sierra Whiskey Foxtrot Delta, it's all in the show notes, to receive $100 off a full conference pass. Security Weekly will be in the broadcast alley, that's out front there in that main auditorium. It's a real cool place to go check out. It's where you come in the front door there after you've been lost for 35 minutes trying to find where the front door is. There are many, many people walking the streets with giant banners saying RSA. They will not help you. Well, I don't know. They're supposed to help you. The one I asked didn't know where for me to go, and I was like, why are you out here? And they were like, to help people. And I was like, okay, help me. I want to know where to get in. But anyway, they sorted it out. Later, I met one that helped me a whole bunch. But I think that person was like their first day on the job. Anyway, they will be there on Monday and Tuesday of RSA 2019, recording sponsored interview and hosted briefings. So if you want to request time with Security Weekly, please go to securityweekly.com/conference request, and they will meet your needs. Mm-hmm. Paul and Matt will attend to you in the broadcast alley, which, should be interesting. All right. So anyway, last week I was thinking about what to talk about on the show, and people have something else people have asked for in the past about terms, and I started thinking, well, how many terms are there? And I'm like, it's like this book. So there's like this giant book of terms probably. So I actually just took the ones that were either on my monitor or on my desk.
I've seen your desk. I don't know how the hell you pull anything off that.
Yeah, I had to move some stuff around and chase the cats away or whatever. But actually, the cats don't get to get on my desk because they don't come out there. They get scared. It's weird. If they take the cats to my office, they get scared and panicked, and you have to take them back inside. They think they want to go, but then they don't go. So I took the terms that were coming up from cyber. There were actually there was a lot of other acronyms there, and decided that we could probably do shows to the rest of the year if we just started with AI and went all the way to 0 day, we probably would spend the rest of the year just on these. And there's so many of them. And I think all of us don't realize how much of this we use in our conversation. The weirdest thing I ever had, and I will tell you, this is an acronym story. It was taking FEMA training. So if you don't know what FEMA is, it's Federal Emergency Management Association. I was taking FEMA training, and on the first page of the first document of the training class, it said, one of the rules of FEMA is to never use acronyms. These can be confusing. And they had an acronym for it. I don't remember what it was, but it was like the whole book was full of acronyms, but it were FEMA acronyms. But the people at the class were military, police, cyber, and everybody had their own set of acronyms, and all the acronyms meant different things to different people, and it was so confusing.
Yeah, one of the ones we'll cover later is NIST, which is thankfully that will help prevent all that stuff. Second rule of FEMA is don't talk about FEMA.
Yeah, we don't talk about FEMA. So we're going to talk about some terms that I had, and we may come up with some other ones in the meantime. But these were just on my desk. So when I was writing the show notes, I sit down. So the first one that was on my desk, that's a big one, is SOC. So the reason SOC was on my desk was working for a client. We're talking about how to build SOCs, what should be in SOCs, what are the best practice for SOCs, and all this kind of stuff. And this is SOC.
Right, not SOCK.
Right, so it's Sierra Oscar Charlie, not SOX, which is Sierra Oscar X-ray, because Sierra Oscar X-ray is SOX, which stands for either the White Sox
or the Red Sox
or Sarbanes-Oxley. Which is a federal law that ended up dictating that people had to do cybersecurity stuff, because that was the first time I started doing SOCs was when nobody knew what it was, and it was this thing called Sarbanes-Oxley, and everybody started dreading SOCs. But this is a SOC, and a SOC is a Security Operations Center. And this is pretty much a physical thing. I mean, it's a physical entity that you would have in your company. It may be a virtual environment, but it's still representative of a thing, and you may have multiple SOCs. And we do a lot of stuff there. So if you take classes in incident response or you do incident response, that's a place that you would interact a lot with a SOC, because the SOC is sort of the detection center of your network, right? You ever built a SOC out?
One of the groups of students that I used to work with, we took on tours various SOCs. One was Dell SecureWorks. They had a SOC that we went to and toured. And GTech, or now it's IGT.
Okay.
They had a SOC too that we went to, and actually in that case it was a floor of a building, wasn't a separate entity. But so yeah, if you haven't been to a SOC before, I highly recommend calling a company and say, hey, you mind want to organize a tour or something like that. Some of them will give them more.
Yeah, most of them are going to say hell no.
Yeah, but some will.
Well, some of them have a way to look at the SOC.
Yeah.
Like if you go to one of our often employers, I won't say their name, but if you go to one of our often employers, they just have like this window that's got an LED. It's an LCD window, and they can gray it out. And then they always bring everybody into this sort of conference room, and then they clear the gray, and you can see the room full of people. So like in that case, what those people are doing is they've all got multiples. They've got workstations with multiple monitors, and they have sensors that they put out in networks. And this can be remote. So a lot of those remote stuff for that's a commercial SOC. So you've got sensors that you put all over your network, just like you would put out motion detectors for physical security. In your network, you're sniffing, and you're looking at traffic that's going through your network using tools like Security Onion, Snort, all the Snort's part of Security Onion now. But I mean, those are tools that actually analyze traffic that's going through. But it's really more than that, because now you're taking humans, often in conjunction with machine learning or other approaches, to look at traffic and try to analyze and detect things that are bad that may be going to happen, that are starting to happen, or a worm breaks loose or whatever, and everybody wants to jump right on that.
I remember you and I had scheduled a tour of Rima's SOC over in wherever it was, and they had this really cool map that was showing real time all the different exploits that were being found and what was going on various larger networks.
Well, and really posh ones, then they start to blow this up onto a board or something, so you can actually see red dots and yellow dots and green dots and things like that to represent different systems and the status of those systems. And a lot of times they have overlays that you can set, so they can say which systems have been patched. so they flip it on, and yellow systems weren't patched in the last 6 months, and red systems haven't been patched ever, and green systems were patched yesterday. You can set all kinds of rules about that. And so SOCs can really be a lot of different things. It's a great place to get entry level. So a lot of SOCs hire people at the entry level because that's where they train people up in how to do this. And so if you are somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience, you're trying to get into the field, that's not a bad job to look at because you can sort of learn how things work starting with that kind of monitoring role.
Analyst positions, you would say? For the
analysts are usually going to be the next level up. So an analyst, a SOC usually has people that are just, and the titles you don't know, but usually an entry-level SOC person is just monitoring. And so when they see something unusual, then they call in the analyst and go, what is this? What do you think this is? And the analyst is saying, that's nothing. We've seen that before. It's kind of like being a traffic cop in a way. I mean, that really demeans it, but I don't mean it that way. But, somebody who's used to watching, a stretch of highway and they know the kind of behavior that's out on that highway all the time. And when they see unusual things, they know how to behave with that. They see a truck go through every day. They go, yeah, it's a FedEx truck. It's nothing to worry about. Then they see that truck that says, Les's mangoes, and they go, never saw a mango truck coming out of here before. Might want to pull that one over and check it out. Yeah, it's like official site of Rhode Island mangoes.
Adam and Eve, look.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we have those. But we do have. I saw one of those the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It was a super fantasy store or something like that. It didn't look like a super fantasy. It looked like super sleaze. It's very sorted. I think, I don't know. I've never gone on one. Have you ever gone on one of those? Oh, right. He's lying. No,
why? You can go online. You can go online,
Oh, well,
I saw, believe it or not, I saw a priest come out of those one day over in Warwick. Not that I sit there and monitor. I happen to be
He's just keeping up with the competition.
Cellos. Yeah. Oh.
It's just like, how can we stop sin if we don't understand it? Yeah, right. Okay, so before we get off in all kinds of trouble, the next one that I had on my desk was a SIEM.
Not a SIEM.
Well, supposedly
before E, except after.
Well,
SIEM.
I know. The German pronunciation would be SIEM, but
SIEM.
I always hear people say SIEM, but they said I looked it up and they said it was pronounced SIEM, SIEM. So that's Sierra India Echo Mike, and Security Information and Event Management. And a SIEM is typically a part of a SOC. So you would have components of a SIEM inside of your SOC, and there are massive numbers of tools, and so Snort in and of itself, or Security Onion, if you aren't familiar with those two products, but those are types of SIEM products that are, Snort's kind of a basic one, and then now they have Security Onion's a more comprehensive one, and now of course there's all kinds of very expensive commercial SIEM products that are out there in the marketplace that you can buy that use all sorts of elaborate techniques to try to evaluate. The real, I guess, structure of a SIEM that sets it apart from something just like Snort is that the idea of a SIEM is that it has the ability to start correlating events. So it's tracking events in real time, but it also is building databases, and of course that's where machine learning and things start kicking in. It's building, databases of events. If it has machine learning type components to it, it may be able to start drawing correlations between these kinds of events. So it saw that attack and it uses the knowledge of that attack to then apply that to a different kind of attack that nevertheless behaves in a very similar way and start showing you those kind of correlations and things. These are usually expensive and complex tools. They're not stuff you just usually get. I mean, they have them. You can get them for home use, but they're usually a little much for most people's homes. But nevertheless, so I will say this about SIEMs. I think the day is coming when you will need a SIEM at home because of Internet of Things.
Yep.
You are starting to add so many devices at your domicile, whether it's thermostats, remotes, light bulbs, fish tank bulbs, and heaters. I just saw the other day.
Was that at me?
No, it wasn't. I actually saw a fish tank heater the other day that was like, web enabled.
Yeah, I know. I had the fish feeder too, remember?
Well, yeah, you can feed your fish.
You saw my office.
You can be in China feeding your fish or even seeing them and talking to them. So you can put a little camera in there so you can actually see your fish from wherever you happen to be. They have pet feeders. I saw one for my cats. You could put this little thing on the wall, and it's got like a camera and a screen in it. You go, "Hello, kitty," and the cat's like, "Shut up and feed me. Make the food fall out." I guarantee you, my cats would take that thing apart.
Ugh.
If there's food inside of it, they would take it apart. You'd be watching it through the camera as the camera is just sort of sitting there going, "Help me! Oh God, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. You know, and the cat, you could just see the cat's face like ripping into the thing. And then when you came home, there'd be little pieces of it scattered all over the house, and all the food would be gone. And the cats would all be sitting there like, because that's how
You
they
should do a side by side experiment. Put one and fill it with food. The other one fill it with catnip. See what happens.
Oh yeah, it would be bad. Catnip is bad for
Yeah, I know, I've
cats
seen-
get really weird when they
I've
take
seen
catnip.
cats on catnip.
It's funny, yeah.
pretty wild,
They
yeah.
love it. I mean, they go nuts over it. But there's a day coming when I think you're going to need a SIEM in your house. I mean, like right now, if you took a Snorby, which is Snorby's a GUI front end for this product called Snort. If you don't know what Snort is, you can just go to snort.org and look it up. It's a real popular free product. But I mean, if you took that and put it in your house, you would have sensors in your network. It would look for signature behaviors that you download called rules, and try to see, oh, wow, that IoT device is starting to communicate. And you could do that yourself. So you could set up Wireshark at your border and just sniff your own traffic and say, look, my fish feeder is talking to somebody on the internet. What is it saying? And if you look at it and it's encrypted traffic, you might be worried about it. And it may well be encrypted traffic these days. But there was a time when you could look at it and you could open the packet and go, oh, it's just sending like a serial number and checking for an update.
Yeah.
And you'll see all that traffic. I mean, if you haven't done that at your domicile, do it sometime, just even with Wireshark, and watch the amount of traffic that things in your residence are communicating outbound, whether it's just checking for updates. So like I looked at mine the other day and all these Windows machines were going bing, 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 you know, and they're all trying to see if there's any, and Google's checking for updates, and everything else you've got is checking. Your phone is checking for updates, and everybody's talking to somebody somewhere, and it gets a little scary actually.
And to relate the SIEMs back to what we were talking about last week with containers, maybe this would be a service that, you know, these companies might provide as a container add-on.
Well,
or
they
something
actually
like that.
pretty much are starting to do that. I mean, I didn't check yet, but I asked you, I'm going to check to see if there's like a Docker container of Security Onion. Because I mean, I was just thinking about that the other day, and I haven't actually researched it yet, but I was thinking about like Snort, and I was like, what if you built like Snorby into a container, and then it would be much easier to distribute. I mean, I was building one yesterday on a VM, and then I can make a gold VM out of that. And then whenever we want a SOC VM, we just create an instance of that VM, which is, again, it's very similar to a container. But I thought, what if you did that with a Docker container, and you know, you actually did it? It would be easier to transport. It would be smaller, and all those kind of things.
But even with real-time monitoring by maybe potentially a human, I mean, you've got a similar analogy to, you know, home security systems, right? I mean, you don't need the human to monitor anymore, because now these alarms go right to your phone. I have a brand new one myself at the house, you know, and you get an alert, right? I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know how to call the police department or 911 on yourself, rather than paying $47 to $50 a month.
I think you're right. I mean, I think SIM type containers that maybe somebody's going to sell you, like Cox or somebody, may actually just say, we'll put this SIM, you can pay us another $3 a month.
And people will do it.
I mean, you put this SIM container on your network, you don't have to worry about it. It'll go off if anything weird starts happening, and we'll alert you and say, did you just install a new thermostat? It seems to be talking to someone, and it's actually pulling information out. It's talking to everything in your network. And a lot of these IoT devices are really scary like that. Big ones now have things like, it's called, I don't even know how to pronounce.
Yuba.
Is it Yuba?
That was YUBA. I don't know what.
Well, it's UEBA.
UEBA.
UEBA. UEBA, which does sound like a soccer thing or something, but I don't know anything
Not like
about
Max
sports.
Weber, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a dodgeball term. UEBA, that's what they say when somebody goes out. But it's user and entity behavior analytics and SOARs, which is security orchestration and automated response. And I had all that stuff written on my notepad the other day because I was reading up on this, and
Doug's got sores on his. On
yeah,
his
I was
pad.
like,
where's
calling
the
my wife,
penicillin?
going,
Where's the penicillin?
well, yeah, I was calling my coworker and saying, "Do we have SOARs?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't checked." And it's like, but they do have penicillin for that. And it's like, it's one of those days. So there's a snowstorm coming. Everybody's panicking and freaking out.
All 3 inches.
I know it's supposed to be like 2 inches of snow, and I've got all these alerts and stuff like, "Oh, be advised, be advised." And I was like, "Isn't this New England?" But anyway, in Michigan, they never noticed snow unless it hit more like 40 inches at a time, and somebody might say something. All right, the next one I had written down was PCI.
Yep.
And PCI is a nasty one because it has so many different meanings and so many different contexts. The two main meanings with PCI are payment card industry, which is the one you hear people talk about a lot if you watch Security Weekly or stuff like that. And the other one is a piece of hardware. So a PCI is, I don't even know what that stands. You know what that stands for?
I think it had something. It was either personal computer interface or something like, I don't remember. But that's where you would, you have PCI, PCIX, PCI X16, X32, and you would use that slot for graphics.
Right. So on a motherboard, you have a card slot, and you plug something in. PCI was one of the original, like modern a card slot protocol.
Something interchange.
But the one I had written down was PCI because we were just sort of brainstorming some stuff, and I had written down PCI because I thought that might be a set of standards that somebody could look at. And PCI is also often confused with PKI, which I've got on my list as well. But PCI standards were developed by the credit card industry. So people like Visa and MasterCard and American Express and Discover and Diners Club. Diners Club.
Does a lot of people use that?
When I moved to Colorado, the state it was based in Denver, and the state required every state employee to have a Diners Club card, and you were supposed to offer it everywhere you went. Even if they didn't accept it, you were supposed to display it and offer it, and then when they turned you down, use another card. You had to sign a form that said, I offered my Diners Club card, and they went, what is this, 1965? But anyway, PCI was developed by those guys to try to start managing online payment, because one of the real big concerns early on in security was about online transactions. I got so many calls back in like 2003 to 5 from people saying, is this safe to shop online? I had journalists and all kinds of people calling. Give me an example where you get ripped off online. I'm like, oh, okay. Some guy says he'll sell you like, $50,000 worth of exercise equipment for $500. And she was like, no, I mean like when they actually get your data. I was like, well, they got your data there. But if you're trying to pay for things online, which all of us do now, I mean, whether we use Apple Pay, Google Pay, there's how many more of those are there now?
Android Pay,
MasterCard Pay, Visa Pay,
anything that ends in pay.
Yeah, and then just the fact that you do that, or you physically use a credit card. In fact, a lot of places won't even take cash anymore. They don't want cash. The only places that still take cash are weed stores and parking garages.
Remember we parked in Boston to go see a show a couple weeks ago, and there was a big sign on the window, right? And it said $15 charge to use cash.
Right.
They were charging $15 in addition to parking if you paid in cash.
That's right.
Who the hell does, come on,
I was like,
folks.
no, thank you.
Yeah, forget that.
They're charging for cash. I mean, it was like crazy.
And the other thing, too, with PCI as it relates to the payment card industry is it's oftentimes coupled with DSS, which is, I believe that stands for Data Security Standards. And
Decision Support Systems.
And Decision Support Systems. So PCI DSS is sort of, and we saw somebody give a master's thesis presentation.
Yeah, that's right.
Where, they develop these lists of standards for people who are conducting business using online or MasterCard or Visa, as Doug said, and just to make sure that you maintain compliance, because you as the vendor are held liable for protecting the customers, end customers or end users' information.
Well, yeah, and if you don't know this, I mean, like if bad charges occur on your card now, I mean, it's pretty easy to get that resolved, and you get alerts. Like mine, they do have a lot of like computer-driven and expert system type stuff that looks at your behavior.
Yep.
And if they see you only ever use, you're like my friend, and the only place you ever use a credit card ever is at this grocery store that's a mile from your house, and you suddenly use it in Hawaii, his card was disabled because they were like, "Why are you in Hawaii?" Now my card, I go all over the place, and so they're used to my card being stuff. But we call and tell a credit card company, "Oh, I'm going to be in Vietnam. Please don't disable my card." So when I go to check in at my hotel, they won't accept the card because it's in Vietnam. And PCI was all about setting those kind of standards and controls, and what are the best practices for that industry. So that's a good place to look if you're wanting to read about online transactions and things. They have a lot of guidelines and things like that. Another one I had on there, of course, was PKI. And PKI is public key infrastructure. And you hear people talk about this a lot too. So PCI, PKI, and all this, because a lot of it's related. And PKI was about cryptography. So it was about how do I get, I mean, I know there's, Jeff, I know there's more to it than that, but I mean, it's really boils down to, it's a set of standards for encrypting transactions from place to place so that you can have secure communications between me and you, or me and a company, or whatever. And it's really about how do you secure the electronic transfer of information. So PCI standards would most definitely have PKI standards inside of them, saying you really should follow this set of best practice guidelines such that you can enact a secure credit card transaction from your place of business to our home office where the money's going to change hands. Because otherwise you're going to get hacked to pieces. And they still do sometimes. But A lot of that stuff then is developed by another thing that was written on my desk, which was NIST. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, a federal agency that, if you're not familiar with it, does many. I'm always surprised people don't know about NIST because it's so far-reaching.
I mean, it's not just about cybersecurity. It's also
not at
about
all.
science in general.
NIST has been around forever.
Yeah, when I was in chemistry, a chemistry major, NIST came up all the time.
Well, NIST are the people that determine what a kilogram weighs or how much a pound is. They have all these standards and all these weights and all. It's the gold standard for all that stuff. And then they started getting into cybersecurity really early. They actually happen to have a person there named Doug White.
Do they really?
Yeah, there's a Dr. Doug White that works at NIST. I'm not kidding. I've met him on several occasions.
No way.
And he one of the things at least he used to do was he did hashes of files. So one of the things NIST does is they go through like stuff like, say, Windows 10, and they take a standard install of Windows 10 and they hash every file in it. And they put those hashes together so that you could compare your vanilla Windows install to their vanilla Windows install to see if you may have gotten infected with something or you're installing things you didn't expect.
Like SHA-1 or MD5 or something
well,
like that.
it's a set of, like MD5 hashes and SHA-1 hashes that just basically are the fingerprints of all the files. So these are known files. They use them in forensics. People now use them to validate that they've got a clean image before they start blowing it out to 10,000 employees or whatever. And so they do stuff like that. But they also then start writing all kinds of documents that describe best practice, security guidelines, and they have guidelines for all sorts of stuff too. But they really got heavily involved in publishing draft standards and then developing the guidelines and putting them out as NIST documents. So you can go on their site; it's free. So, or you will. It's your tax dollars pay for it. So you should go on their site. But they have really good material, and you can go on there and download these fairly significant books that have best practice guidelines. And even if that's not the ultimate thing you want to do, it's a great way to save yourself a lot of time, because as you start to develop your own standards, even for whatever you're doing or you're just in your career, it's great to have this sort of starting point from which you can develop standards. That somebody else already, that Dr. Doug White at NIST spent all his time on. Hi, Dr. Doug White. And developed all that. And then, of course, because NIST was open on one screen, I also, there was an ad for NSA.
What were they advertising?
Jobs. They were hiring people. There was an ad that popped up in a box that said the National Security Administration, which is what NSA stands for, is another government organization. Now, this one's one of those shadowy ones that you read about in like Tom Clancy novels and all kinds of other, like cybersecurity novels. Now we have that genre. But their true responsibility was for crypto, and they've been around long before computers. So they were doing crypto way back when. Signals intelligence, and if you don't know that term, signals intelligence is about how the military communicates. So they develop standards so that a person with a walkie-talkie out in the field can go, we're down behind a clump of trees, and the enemy is not going. They're
Bravo
down.
1. Yeah,
they're down behind the clump of trees. You might want to shoot over there.
SI, another signal intelligence. Another
Absolutely.
Acronym,
that is an acronym. But the military develops stuff there. They also focus on privacy, defense. I mean, it's mostly sort of a national security level kind of stuff. But it's a pretty big agency. Some of the people on Security Weekly, Jeff and Jack, both worked there. I know. Now they have to kill me.
Now they're outed. What was it? Valerie Plame or whatever? She was ousted or something.
We should have had a person in like a black ninja suit just step up and like cut my throat on camera right there.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, all the rest of the shots, there's a guy with a rifle standing over here. I'm going, no, the government is wonderful and we love them very much. There is no such thing as the NSA. Germs do not exist because I cannot see them. Sorry, that's a little more topical reference. But NSA does a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of criticism of NSA in the cybersecurity community. A lot of respect, but a lot of people don't like the NSA because they're shadowy and they do stuff. And there's, of course, conspiracies around things they may or may not have done. There's conspiracies. I mean, there's been movies about that in the last couple of years. Snowden. If you've ever heard of Snowden, Snowden worked for them, and he decided to go public with some of their surveillance stuff. When you read things about like facial recognition, and there's a lot of discussion around the ethics of putting cameras everywhere. And I could argue either side of it. I mean, I can say, wow, you're a lot safer because somebody's watching. I mean, the fact that there's a camera that can identify somebody in the grocery store, although that was creepy, They got those robots at the grocery store now. It's like, hi, my name is
I saw
Jeff.
them,
I'm a robot. I'm here for your safety and security. I'm like, right, you bet. They're to see if I stole bananas or not. You know, it's like they're catching you. You're back there in the aisle eating beanie weenies out of the can.
Beanie weenies.
That's what people do when they're like in college and they don't have any money. They go to the grocery store and you wait till nobody's looking and you pop open a can of like Vienna sausage and like eat them all real fast. And
oh man,
you never see anybody do that?
No, thank you.
Okay, you must have gone to the rich school. So
No, I didn't.
I went to a state school. People didn't have any money.
We had ramen.
Well, yeah, but you can't eat that in the store.
Oh, they do now. They make ramen sandwiches out of it. You just open the pack, put a piece of bologna or whatever in there, and that's
It's
it.
like crunchy dried noodles.
It's a big thing.
Well, let me give you some hints, okay? So when you go in the grocery store, go to the aisle where they got beanie weenies and Vienna sausage.
Okay.
That stuff you can eat right out of the can. You don't break your teeth. You're not chewing up, uncooked noodles on a piece of bread. You can just go to the beanie weenie aisle and you're good to
I
go.
don't think I want to eat anything called a beanie weenie.
Well, it's better than a Vienna sausage.
Oh, all right.
Talk about nasty. But anyway, so the NSA does stuff like that. And like I say, there's people questioning, whether that stuff's ethical or whether it's controversial. And it all is controversial. The NSA's job is to protect the United States from, like threats like that. So they're supposedly on our side and they're supposedly working for us. So I don't know. I've never been to the NSA. I've been to the museum, but I've never been inside you can't get in there. Yeah. Or if you do, you're in big trouble unless you work there. Yeah. How about ISAKMP? That was on one of my screens. ISAKMP is the Internet Security Association and Key Management Protocol. And this thing is defined by an RFC. See below. It's RFC 2408, and it was the basis for the key exchange between 2 points. And you use this all the time, whether you know it or not. So whenever two web browsers exchange keys with or a web browser and a server exchange keys, they may be using ISAKMP. There's other protocols as well, but ISAKMP is a basis for so many things. Like IKE, which is Internet Key Exchange, all these things get embedded in there, and these things allow the encryption of data streams. At the same time, I had written on the same sheet of paper IPsec, or IPsec, as I say it, and I know it's probably wrong because everything I say is wrong, but I don't care. IPsec,
IP freely.
which is, that's a different protocol. We'll get to that one soon. Internet Protocol Security encrypts packet data sent over Internet Protocol as well. So these are all pieces of the same kind of thing. And all of that actually ended up being part of, I was writing some stuff about VPNs. And so virtual private networks, which are used to connect securely from your laptop or your network to another network and send everything in an encrypted pipe, may use things like IPsec, ISAKMP. All those are different parts of how that VPN protocol works, and they're important cryptography protocols to allow us to send things encrypted over the internet, which most everything is getting done that way now.
Another one of my favorite was PPTP, point-to-point tunneling protocol.
Yeah, point-to-point tunneling protocol. Say that with a straight face.
PPTP.
Yeah, it was like German. It was like when you get to the part of German verb conjugation that involves driving. Like I drive in German, and you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean, or look that up. RFC is a request for comment. So there was also another whole thing that came from another acronym, IETF, which is the Internet Engineering Task Force. And requests for comments, and there's many of them, are literally the IETF's way of putting stuff out there and letting people like you get in there and make comments about it and say, this is stupid, or this is great, or why didn't you do it this other way? Yeah. And most of the stuff that we've mentioned, like that was actually protocols, so ISAKMP, IPsec, all those protocols came from IETF requests for comments. That's why I put that one up there in the body. A committee develops these things based on stuff people have said they need or whatever. They put it up for review. Anybody pretty much can go in there and review it. And almost every protocol or standard or anything you see today probably started as a request for comment from somewhere, like RFC 894. Do you know what that one is?
No, I don't know.
It's the original IP datagram protocol. So like when people were first putting that stuff together, the IP datagram protocol came up, and that's where it started. Another one I had written on my pad was BSD, and not BFD,
or
BFG.
Or BD.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, BDSM.
That's it. That's what I meant.
I was using the sophisticated term for that. I don't want to do it halfway. I mean, the BD is no good without the SM. I mean, come on.
But yeah, BSD. I mean, that's going back. It was the Berkeley software distribution.
Yeah. So this was Berkeley software distribution. It was one of the original great grandfathers of Unix,
Yep.
and it was an operating system that ran on PDP-11 systems, among others. So way back in the 70s, and a lot of times today people just call this Berkeley Unix. But if you want to get it, I mean, there's still iterations, and they're not old. I mean, they continue.
OpenBSD was one.
Well, OpenBSD you can get today, so you can go on there, and the BSD Society and all these people keep this up, and they have new releases and whatever. All of this was involved with Bell Labs and Unix and all that kind of stuff, and it became the ancestor of Linux. So if you use Linux today, almost all these were based on ideas that came out of BSD, because all that came out of Bell Labs and all that stuff. So way back when, really cool old stuff. But you'll see people talk about that, because I was actually looking for distros of these older things that are more secure, that are more configurable, and it was really just for something I was talking about to to a client. But I was going to talk to them about BSD Linux, and I actually had it written down on my pad because I was like, maybe a reference for this. I got the head. This is all just on one day on my desk. VMs, virtual machines. If you watched the show last time, we explained all that. But I did have it. It was on. I was actually building a VM. One of the things my VM was going to be looking for were zero-day exploits, which is not an acronym, actually, but it's a term.
Not VDI.
They don't call it ZDE. I always think they would call it ZDE, because it's like, why not use another acronym? Like, we need a Z acronym, and zero. Maybe they do call it that. I don't know. Everybody always says zero-day or zero-day exploit, but on that. But zero-day exploits are basically a new exploit, something that nobody's ever put in play, and are just been discovered, and nobody knows how to stop it usually. It's just a big thing, and when you see people in the news say, oh, there's a new zero-day exploit, that's obviously something that you need to worry about, because it's just been released or just been found. If you find a zero-day exploit, wow, you're ready to rock and roll. You can go to DEF CON and talk about it and be famous. Or not, or go to jail, and can say, yeah, then I stole a lot of money from that. And that was what was open on my desk. So that was all the things that I was researching the other day when I was sitting around.
And next week I'll be running the show on my own, so we'll cover mine, DSL, IEEE, VDI.
Yeah.
I
have to go on a secret mission, so I'll shoot the intro for Russ for the show.
Oh, that'd be great.
On my secret mission. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to Yemen.
Yemen.
Yeah, no, I'm going to Vale. It's not quite the same as Yemen. No, I think I'll go to Vale.
Yeah,
I'll send you guys to Sudan and Vale to shoot your or Sudan and Yemen. You can shoot your promos as they're like getting ready to lop your head off or something. Sorry, we're gonna get any racist stuff here, but
nope.
Well, no more than usual. But anyway, so that was just some terms. Obviously, there are books and books of terms. If you have things you want to hear more about, be sure and send them into the show. Russ is going to do more terms next week while I am away. And you can see what was on his desk, which is like, then you'll know more about porn than you ever wanted to know. And STDs.
KY, what was that?
KY and STD. The first two he's on the list. Anyway, thanks for joining us on this really sort of crazy snow day edition of Secure Digital Life. And
SDL.
We'll see you in SDL, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks.